Most people will never know this, but the money in your wallet, the currency you trust every day, is on a collision course with collapse by 2030. Fiat money, the paper bills, and digital balances that dominate global finance could lose its value in ways that will shock even seasoned investors. Here is what they don't want you to see. Every major central bank is quietly preparing, not just for inflation or recession, but for a systematic reshaping of global currency systems. This is still happening today, and the choices made between 2026 and 2030 will determine who keeps wealth and who loses everything. Most people will never know this because the headlines tell a friendly story. Inflation is temporary. Interest rates are normalizing. Digital payments are convenient. They never show the machinery of collapse. Governments and central banks have spent decades engineering a system where debt, leverage, and money printing are not tools, they are weapons. Here's what they don't want you to see. Every quantitative easing program, every emergency bailout, every zero-interest policy has been rehearsing for this moment. This is still happening today, and very few realize it is not economic mismanagement, it is deliberate. To understand the endgame, we need to look at history. In 1971, the United States abandoned the gold standard. Nixon claimed it was temporary. Most people will never know this, but this single decision shifted the entire global monetary system onto a fiat foundation, untethered from any real value. For decades, currencies could be printed without restraint. Debt could expand endlessly, and global trade could rely on a system of trusts backed by nothing tangible. Here is what they don't want you to see. The trillions of dollars created since then have quietly transferred wealth upward, enriching elites and central institutions at the expense of ordinary citizens. This is still happening today. Fast forward to 2008. The global financial crisis exposed the fragility of fiat systems. Lehman Brothers collapsed, banks were rescued, governments expanded balance sheets with unprecedented force. Most people will never know this, but those who controlled the bailout frameworks gained leverage over the world's largest economies. Here's what they don't want you to see. Every stimulus program, every quantitative easing wave was a rehearsal for absolute control over fiat liquidity. This is still happening today, and each intervention has weakened the foundations of money further. By 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic accelerated the shift. Central banks injected trillions into markets. Debt levels soared to historic highs. U.S. national debt surpassed $28 trillion. Global debt exceeded $300 trillion. Most people will never know this, but these numbers are not just statistics. They are ticking time bombs. Fiat currency relies on confidence. Confidence can be broken. Here is what they don't want you to see. The digital infrastructure for total control over transactions, combined with a global debt dependency, creates the perfect conditions for a coordinated collapse. This is still happening today. The first undeniable example is hyperinflation history. In Weimar Germany, 1923, money printed beyond economic output rendered the mark worthless. Prices doubled daily. Most people will never know this, but central bankers today study these scenarios in secret simulations. The second example is Zimbabwe, 2008. Their government issued trillion-dollar notes, and citizen savings evaporated overnight. Here's what they don't want you to see. Fiat money has no intrinsic value. Its stability is artificial, maintained only by institutional control. This is still happening today, and global debt ratios are now far higher than those historical examples. The third example is the US dollar's post-1971 dominance. It functions as the world reserve currency. Most people will never know this, but its power is already eroding. China, Russia, and emerging markets are shifting reserves into gold-backed instruments. Here is what they don't want you to see. The dollar's collapse is not a theory. It is a planned eventuality for those who have positioned assets outside the fiat system. This is still happening today, and it sets the stage for the next phase. Digital currencies. By 2025, central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, will be operational in major economies. Sweden, China, and the UAE have already piloted systems. Most people will never know this, but these currencies allow governments to monitor, restrict, and control every transaction. Here is what they don't want you to see. Programmable money can enforce behavior. limiting spending, applying dynamic taxes, and even freezing accounts. This is still happening today, and the infrastructure is being integrated into the fiat system, preparing for a controlled fiat. The 2026 to 2030 roadmap is already visible to insiders. Early 2026. China expands the digital yuan globally, linking trade settlements to CBDC networks. Mid-2026. Major Western central banks begin CBDC trials in Europe and North America. Late 2026. Legislation quietly enforces reduced cash usage under the guise of modernization and fraud prevention. Most people will never know this, but each policy is synchronized across nations. Here's what they don't want you to see. The endgame is not financial efficiency, it is the total consolidation of monetary power. By 2027, debt levels will trigger cascading effects. Trillion-dollar deficits and leverage ratios will constrain governments. Most people will never know this, but fiat currency will become increasingly unstable. Here's what they don't want you to see. Inflation spikes, interest rates climb, and social unrest grows. The elite have prepared assets in gold, silver, cryptocurrencies, and foreign reserves shield them from collapse. This is still happening today, and ordinary citizens will experience wealth erosion faster than ever before. By 2028, CBDCs will be mainstream. Banks will integrate digital wallets with national IDs, tax systems, and welfare programs. Most people will never know this, but spending will be programmable, conditional, and monitored. Here's what they don't want you to see. Every purchase, every transfer, every transaction can be tracked, scored, and restricted. Cash will become a relic, a symbol of privacy now lost. This is still happening today, and it will accelerate wealth consolidation. By 2029, the collapse of fiat confidence accelerates. Stock markets, bond markets, and real estate all show extreme volatility. Most people will never know this, but those with diversified, non-fiat assets will profit enormously. Here's what they don't want you to see. The world is moving toward a new monetary paradigm, likely gold-backed or digital reserve currencies outside traditional fiat control. This is still happening today, and the pace is increasing. By 2030, the full endgame emerges. Fiat money, particularly unsecured government currency, will experience unprecedented devaluation. Most people will never know this, but the transfer of wealth will be complete. Elites and institutions will consolidate power, while ordinary citizens face collapsing savings and reduced purchasing power. Here's what they don't want you to see. The collapse will not be sudden. It will be methodical, planned, and orchestrated through debt, inflation, and digital control. This is still happening today. The warning signs are everywhere. Inflation that outpaces wages, debt that grows faster than GDP, asset bubbles in housing, stocks, and government bonds. Most people will never know this, but each metric signals systemic fragility. Here's what they don't want you to see. The next decade will not resemble the past. The rules of finance are changing, and those who fail to adapt will be left behind. This is still happening today, and preparation is no longer optional. It is survival. Who wins? Those prepared with tangible assets, global diversification, and digital financial sovereignty. Who loses? Anyone who relies solely on fiat currency, savings accounts, or government-controlled digital wallets. Most people will never know this. But every choice between 2026 and 2030 will magnify this divide. Here's what they don't want you to see. Financial literacy, awareness, and proactive asset positioning are the only defenses against the coming collapse. This is still happening today. If this video woke you up, drop a like and subscribe. New forbidden truth every single day. Turn on notifications, the next one might save your wealth. Come into one thing you're doing right now to prepare. I read every single one.